It is August 1918, World War I is not far from its end, but fierce, bloody battles still rage across the Western Front. The stagnant trench fighting has been replaced with a war of movement, and during this phase many impressive acts of valour are recorded. However, perhaps the most awe-inspiring of all these deeds are those accomplished by the man who would become known as Super VC. And so today on the Ulysses Files we cover the extraordinary story of Australian Lieutenant Lawrence Dominic McCarthy. Beginnings. Lawrence Dominic McCarthy was born on 21 January 1892 in York, Western Australia, to Florence and Anne McCarthy. Sadly, both his parents died while Lawrence was still a child, and he was raised in Clontarf Orphanage, Perth, and educated in several Catholic schools. Later, he was apprenticed for 4 years on a farm before leaving to serve in the 18th Light Horse for 2.5 years. He would also work as a sawmill contractor in Perth, losing 3 fingers and his left hand in an accident. He subsequently enlisted in the Australian Imperial Army in October 1914 in the newly formed 16th Battalion, where he earned the nickname of Fats because of his stocky physique. Gallipoli. Sailing for Egypt in December, his battalion landed at Gallipoli on 26 April 1915 on the second day of the campaign against the Turkish. He fought there until illness forced his evacuation in September. By then he had been promoted to sergeant. McCarthy returned to duty in November and was among the last in his battalion to leave Gallipoli on 20 December 1915. Western Front on the Quadiga. McCarthy's 16th Battalion arrived in France in June 1916, where they took part in the fighting against the Germans at Pozières and Mouquet Farm in August. He was appointed Company Sergeant Major in March 1917, and the following month was commissioned as a second lieutenant. The day after receiving his commission, McCarthy was wounded at Bullecourt and evacuated to England, where he spent 3 months in hospital and convalescing. Rejoining his unit on 9 July, he was promoted to lieutenant on 1 November and was then awarded the French Quadiga. From February until August 1918, he was posted to the 13th Training Battalion at Tidworth, England, where he trained recruits. Return to the Western Front. Lieutenant McCarthy rejoined his battalion in time for the Allied 100 Days Offensive beginning 8 August. After the Allied victory at the Battle of Amiens in August, the jubilant Australian Corps led by the capable General Sir John Monash eyed the next major target, the medieval fortified town of Mont-Saint-Quentin-Perron, a major transport hub that guarded several vital bridges over the Somme River. Fearing the Germans would blow the bridges before he could take them, Monash was keen to quickly march there, it being a mere 8 miles distant. However, the path was blocked by several more fortified towns. On 23 August, the Corps was reinforced by the British 32nd Division, and Monash began his attack soon after. The 16th Battalion formed the Australian Corps' right flank, besides the 16th Lancashire Fusiliers as they attacked Firmandovillers. They soon overran the town, moving on to the position of Madame Wood to the east. Super VC. It was at this point, 23 August 1918, that McCarthy performed what was later described as being the most effective piece of individual fighting in the history of the Australian Imperial Force, next to Albert Jacker's military cross-winning feat at Poitiers. McCarthy, at the head of D Company, quickly captures his assigned position but soon notices that the Lancashire Fusiliers are being held up by fierce enemy machine gun fire. With another machine gun enfilading the Australians' position, McCarthy and Sergeant Frederick Robbins decide to intervene and clear the position themselves. Dashing 50 metres across open ground, McCarthy and Robbins arrive at the enemy trench lines and assault the offending machine gun. That done, they proceed to charge down the trench, shooting and bombing everything in their path, taking out another 4 machine guns. At one point, Sergeant Robbins is badly wounded, later receiving the Distinguished Conduct Medal for his actions that day. McCarthy is forced to continue on alone. After exhausting his supply of grenades, he begins picking up enemy grenades as he runs. At one point, McCarthy rounds a bend and finds himself standing behind a German officer who is waving his arms at crowded men scuffling in all directions. McCarthy shoots the officer, the rest of the men taking cover in a nearby bunker. He then tosses in grenades, after which the survivors emerge, as the battalion historian records, and closed in on him from all sides, took his revolver, patted him on the back and then allowed him to lead them back to the Australian lines. Soon afterwards, he hands over 500 metres of captured enemy trenches to the British. Almost single-handedly, McCarthy had killed 20 Germans, taken 40 to 50 prisoners, 5 machine guns and 500 yards of enemy trenches. For his actions at Madame Wood that day, he was awarded the Victoria Cross, which was dubbed the Super VC in the London press. He later commented on this, pointing out that there was a VC in everybody if given a chance. Legacy. On 21 November, McCarthy became ill again and was evacuated back to England, where in December he learnt of his VC and Croix de Guerre awards. He rejoined his unit on 7 January 1919 and on the 25th married Florence Minnie Novel at Weston-super-Mare, Somerset. On 12 July he received the VC from King George V at Buckingham Palace, and on 20 December they returned to Australia. McCarthy worked until his retirement in 1969. In 1965 he visited Gallipoli for the 50th centenary of the landings. This supremely brave man died on 25 May 1975 and was given a funeral with full military honours. What are your thoughts on this amazing Australian? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching and see you again soon.